Miguel, it's good to see you again.
Great to be here, Jason, as always.
If passed, this bond will build 26 new campuses, replacement campuses, renovates and modernizes all the rest of the schools, eliminates 700 remaining portables there on campuses across the district, and buys new school buses. It's the largest bond in Texas history. My question is, why all at once? This is a big thing to bite off.
Yeah, it's a great question. Let's take a step back for a second. I want to ground the conversation in the fact that Dallas ISD is probably the most improved large urban school system in the state of Texas. As you think through over the course of the last decade plus, there have been significant structural changes, strategy changes, and investments that have led to now over 70% of all Dallas ISD campuses, and there's over 220 of those, over 70% are A or B rated campuses. That happens because the community believes in the school system, and that happens because leaders are willing to make tough decisions. Some of those decisions and some of that community investment happened in 2015 and in 2020, which were the last two times that Dallas ISD went after school bonds, and they did it at a no tax rate increase as well. Voters supported that, and my thought is that as we continue to do this work for the 2026 bond, voters will do the same thing because they see the advancements that the school system has made and what this inevitably can do to try to finally, once and for all, make sure every campus has the facilities that they need so that students can get the education they need.
Is that what this is about, then, for touching every single campus? I mean, is that why you're taking such a big bite?
Every student, every campus, in some form or fashion, is going to be positively impacted by this bond. The number, $6.2 billion, when you really break that down, the biggest portion of the bond is going to go to rehabilitating campuses. It'll go to, as you mentioned, 26 new campuses. Let's give some context, though. The money is needed just for those 26 campuses alone. The average age is 70 years.
For a school campus?
For a school campus, the average age of those 26 campuses that are going to be rebuilt is 70 years old. That goes back to LBJ's presidency. Those campuses could qualify for Medicare today. We're trying to teach kids artificial intelligence, and those campuses, they're having a hard time with artificial lighting. So it's time to invest in campuses like that and to ensure that across all Dallas ISD, kids have a 21st century education in 21st century facilities.
$6.2 billion, though, if passed, this could transform the district. Nothing like this has been tried in the state before.
It would absolutely transform the district. Put a different way, it would continue the transformation of Dallas ISD, which again I would point to as one of the best large urban school systems, not just in the state of Texas, but in the United States of America. And an investment like this just doubles down on that. One other thing to note is as the district has thought about this work, they've also engaged the community. Over 100 community members were part of a steering committee that ultimately helped provide input, and there were over 65 community meetings as well. So I think the community is starting to rally around the idea that if we can put the finishing touches on these facilities this way, that Dallas ISD is just taking another step in a direction of positive momentum.
The bond is split into 4 different bonds here. Prop A is the big one to redo these campuses, to touch all the other ones. Prop B is upgrades in technology, much smaller one. Prop C is to refinance the existing debt, and Prop D is to improve the district's swimming pools. What happens, though, if voters decide they don't want to pass the big one, the granddaddy here, Prop A? What happens to Dallas ISD if this doesn't pass?
Well, the momentum that has continued, again, for over a decade now, that momentum in part could stall. It means kids are going to be less safe because safety and security is a key component of the bond. It means kids can't take advantage of things that other kids in districts that have higher property wealth and have invested in their facilities can't take part in, like basic things, being a part of a swimming team and the ability to be able to compete. Those are the types of things and experiences that I think that our community members in the past have said Dallas ISD students deserve, and with this bond will, I believe, vote for as well.
This bond is actually going to create a 1-cent tax increase for property owners. Nobody likes paying property taxes. They're sky high in this state. What does that actually mean? How much more am I going to pay if voters decide they want to pass this?
Well, it is true that there will be a 1-cent tax increase. It's important for your viewers to know that in the 2015 and in the 2020 bond, both of those were no tax increases. And in fact, since 2019, Dallas ISD taxpayers have actually paid less of a tax rate. Now, that's not, what I'm not saying is that they paid less property taxes, and that has to do with the fact that property values are going up. But it's important to note that Dallas ISD has been very good with its finances and has been lowering the tax rate since 2019. So that 1 cent tax increase, here's what it's going to feel like. How much do you think an average cup of coffee costs today, Jason?
It's $5 or $6.
Well, that's if you're drinking a skinny vanilla latte, mocha choco,
I don't
whatever
drink those, yeah.
But the average price of a coffee across the United States of America is a little more than $3. This 1 cent tax increase to the average homeowner is going to be $2.79 a month. Over the course of a year, it's $33. Our bet is that the average taxpayer is going to be willing, possibly, to pay that $2.79 a month, because inevitably, more kids getting a better education and better school facilities means the ultimate economic outlook for our community is going to go up, because good grades leads to good lifetime opportunities and more kids ultimately reaching their Dallas and their Texan and their American dreams, which is beneficial to all of us as taxpayers.
And to zoom out from that also, when businesses want to relocate, they look at the school systems here.
It is the first thing that they look at. When I was on the Dallas School Board for 7 years, as we were part of the conversations to help companies relocate to Dallas, it was always the first question that I was asked to give an answer to. And we do see more companies relocating to the Dallas area. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why is because of how improved the school system has ultimately become. And this will keep us going in that same direction.
There's no organized opposition against this that I've seen so far, but critics do question whether the district should be taking on this massive amount of debt with ongoing declining enrollment. Are they wrong about that?
I think it's a fair question to say, okay, well, what's the projection from an enrollment standpoint, and how might that impact the long-term outcome? The argument I would make is enrollment declines when people don't believe in schools. The fact in Dallas ISD is actually enrollment increased the last time that they took a snapshot of their enrollment. Why is that the case? The case is because they have improved as a school system.
So you think this would help turn around enrollment as well?
I 100% believe that's the case. I think the other thing is when you drive around the Dallas ISD district and you look at facilities, you are looking at campuses that I believe, and I think voters are looking at campuses that they believe something good happens there, because they look new, they look fresh, it feels like momentum is building. And so, yeah, I mean, I think inevitably when you see that and you understand good stuff is happening in that system, that people say, I might give that a try. Heck, I did it myself, Jason. I've got a second grader in Dallas ISD now and got the ability to put her pretty much wherever I'd like to choose. We bet on DISD, and by the way, the campus she goes to, it was a beneficiary of both the 2015 and the 2020 bond.
Are those last bonds paid off yet? 15 and 20?
The 15 bond is, the 2020 bond is coming to a close. It'll take some time, it'll take a little bit more to ultimately pay it off. And so, with the 2026 bond, inevitably that ultimately will extend payments. But again, at a tax rate that I think the district believes is a fair tax rate.
This has been in the news recently. People may not have noticed this. Fitch Ratings downgraded Dallas ISD's bonds from to a AA from a AA plus, citing the long-term liabilities, potential future debt from this $6.2 billion bond. Well, what's the takeaway for voters when they see that?
Well, the first thing would be, so Fitch is one rating agency.
One of them, right?
S&P is another rating agency, as is Moody. Both Moody and S&P continue to have the same outlook that they've had, which for Moody I think was AA1, and for S&P it was AA+.
And Fitch says it's still a stable outlook here.
That's exactly right. So their assessment was not around the financial health of Dallas ISD, it was around long-term projections that they have. It's also important to note, though, that AA is not a bad rating. That's a fairly decent rating.
It could be worse.
It could be worse, and in fact, the city of Dallas is AA rated as well right now. So, it's one data point, I think, for people who are paying attention to the financial health of the school system to pay attention to, but it's not the only data point, and even that data point is still saying it's a pretty sound school district.
Miguel, thanks for the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.